Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Sarah?
Abstain. I wasn't present.
Abstain. Okay. Rosalie?
Aye.
And Lynn is an aye, so the minutes pass. Thank you. The next item is the meeting schedule for 2022. So we are scheduled through December, and then we were going to relook at the following months. So we're coming up on that. So I wanted to throw out some suggestions and see if this works for everybody. So it seemed like Mondays worked for everybody. I know, Sarah, it was a little difficult for you with John on FinCom because he meets on Mondays, but you had indicated you might be able to make it work. Is that still the case? Would Mondays still work for you?
Yeah, I just might be rolling it a little bit late.
Okay. That is fine. So what I did is I took a look at each of the months, what the select board schedule was, so that we wouldn't be meeting on the same night as our board meetings. And so, and I also looked at some holidays. So I'd like to throw out some suggestions. So for January, we could either do the 10th or the 31st. Is there any preference, one over the other, or one that's a problem for anyone?
I can't do the 10th.
You can't do the 10th. Okay. How is the 30th? How is the 31st then for everybody? Would that work? January 31st?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And we'll do same time, 6:30. Is that still good for everyone? Mm-hmm. Okay. February. There are two dates that are not select board meetings. One is Valentine's, 2/14. And the other one is President's Day, which is 2/21. So I'm assuming the President's Day would be an issue because of kids. That's a vacation week for kids in school. So I don't know how many romantics we have in the group. How does Valentine's work? February 14th.
Lynn, are we talking about meetings in person, or are we still talking about Zoom meetings?
Well, that was my next question to throw out there. I guess we can do it month by month. So any preference on the part of people? I will throw out there that I know the FinCom is working with a hybrid approach, and the select board is going to be discussing that at our next work session on having some people on Zoom and some people in person. I don't know exactly the logistics of that, but it seems like FinCom is making that work. So that's an option as well. So fully virtual, fully in person, or we could do the hybrid. Any feelings on the part of people?
It'd be interesting to see what the FinCom kind of comes down with and kind of learn from their discussion, I think.
Kevin, could you share what FinCom is doing? Because I know you've been at the meetings.
So we've been working the last few weeks specifically on hybrid and what that looks like. There's a lot of different models out there. What the FinCom's been doing the last month or so is basically using the monitor upstairs in the Council on Aging conference room, attaching a computer to it, and using a phone on the desk for audio. I've been on both sides. I've been in the room and I've been on the Zoom. The Zoom's tough because the visual is just like two people and you can't tell who's speaking at the other ends of the room. And it's really hard to participate if you choose to do so from a Zoom because everyone's in the room and then there's a TV on the side. I mean, they're making it work and, for what they're doing. I think it might be easier for them once they have like specific people called into the meetings who can Zoom in, like department heads during the budget process. But for just like an open discussion, it definitely was a little more challenging. We did meet this week with Brad Sweet around the concept of hybrid and what other options there are. Boxer's doing a very intricate model and it still has some feedback issues with what they're doing from an audio standpoint. But one of the suggestions that was made is investing in headsets and everyone zooms in around the table in the meeting. And then that people can zoom it. You'd have one camera facing out towards the audience. And when people participate, they come up to its seat at that computer. And that's the general one that's used. And then everybody in front of you on the board, in this case for us, would have on the screen everybody's images as well. So you can follow along just like we are here. So we'd be in person technically, but we'd be doing very much a Zoom type meeting. There is some cost to that. We have to buy headsets, and we got to do a little bit more research. We're testing it out tomorrow at 3:30 to make sure the feedback and things work. So still some work from the hybrid that needs to be fleshed out before we can sort of say definitively it's working. But it's certainly something to consider, if not now, maybe at least in the future as we kind of work out some of the bugs.
If I might add or comment, the planning board and the ag commission have both determined to continue with Zoom through at least the winter months. We're monitoring, what's happening. The governor has indicated that we can continue through April, I believe it is, with Zoom meetings, and that presumably would get us through the winter months. So we're being very cautious and very protective of each other. And so we're continuing with Zoom for the foreseeable future.
Thank you,
I agree.
Martha.
I think it's very streamlined to do Zoom. It seems like the hybrid is very involved, and I think the simpler the better right now. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, I would agree. I mean, Zoom works. I mean, I think we're all used to it, and that we can manage with this, at least, through the beginning of the spring. The COVID threat is still out there, and it's rising. So that's why we've decided to do what we're doing.
I would just add that I think out of respect for so many business people who are on this committee, I know it's tough for you to make it onto the call. And I think if it were in person, it would add a level of complexity. And considering Sarah is trying to juggle with her kids and with John, my preference would be to continue with Zoom as well. But
For Zoom. I would continue with Zoom. I don't think a hybrid. We're not a long meeting. We're not a complicated issues like the FinCom is dealing with. I just think that, we can wrap things up on a Zoom.
Now, that, as Martha had said, the permission is given through April. So our vote tonight on in-person or Zoom could go through April, and then we'd have to see, what the governor has put out for rules following that. But so is it general consensus that at least through April, we continue with the Zoom format?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So then back to February and Valentine's Day. So I understand if some people have plans, but let me know. Yes.
I'm sorry. It's my birthday too, so I probably won't do it. So
Okay.
I probably won't be doing an ECDC that night.
Okay. So
What,
two
February
reasons not to.
14th, Janet?
What's that?
February 14th? Is your
February
birthday?
14th. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was my father's birthday.
Oh my goodness.
And
We learn something
Janet.
every new all the time from you, Martha.
No, but years ago, you and a whole bunch of us had a birthday party for you on Valentine's Day at my
Yeah.
house. You remember?
I do
Yeah.
remember.
Yes.
I do
We all
remember.
dressed up.
So the other available date in February is the 21st, which is President's Day. So I'm feeling that would probably be an issue for the parents, but
Lynn,
let me put
is
it
there
out there.
another weeknight we could do just that 1 month, like instead of a Monday?
We probably could.
Lynn, don't not have the meetings just because of me. If I can't make it and everybody else can make it, go ahead and do the 14th if that works.
Yeah, but to Sarah's point, if another day that week would work, that takes care of the Valentine issue and it takes care of your birthday issue.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it's an issue, but the conflict.
Well, Tuesdays are fine, except for the 1st and the 3rd. The 1st is planning and the 3rd is the Agricultural Commission.
Okay.
So if you wanted to find a Tuesday.
I can't actually do the 15th, but what about Wednesday, the 16th?
That's good.
Does that work for everyone? Okay. All right. So 2/16. In March, we have two dates, the 14th or the 28th. I don't know if there's a preference or any conflicts.
14th would be better for me.
Okay. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
That keeps it about a month apart as well. Okay. And then in April, there's really one date. Sorry, April 11th, because the 18th is Patriots Day. And again, you're getting into a vacation week. So would April 11th work for everybody? That's back to the Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Let's just stop there then, because actually, come May, we're into the election, and there could be some turnover even of members, and that's kind of far out. And so, I'll make a motion that the schedule be accepted as follows: January 31st, 6:30 p.m., February 16th, 6:30 p.m., March 14th, 6:30 p.m., and April 11th, 6:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm. Second.
I second. Yep.
Second. Okay. All right. Let's move to roll call then. Tom?
Aye. Oh, here, right? No, we already did this. Didn't we already do this?
No, this is now for the motion
Okay,
for
you
the
know what?
schedule.
I think, and Lynn, you thought today was Tuesday? Well, I don't know what day I think it is, but whatever. Okay.
All right. Alex?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Rosalie?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And Lynn is aye. So the motion passes. The motion passes. Oh gosh, it's gonna be that kind of a night.
Gosh.
All right.
Wow.
Great. And those are all, as we said, virtual. So they're going to be Zoom. All right. Moving on to the downtown updates. Kevin's got some exciting, fun things to share with us. So I will turn it over to him.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I got a half a dozen items just going to touch on. First one's the business showcase. We talked about that at the last meeting, and I just want to say, super excited to be working with Alex, Rosie, and Janet. I also have a fourth person, Tom Rosa, who has a background in event planning, who I've been speaking with. He's really excited about all the things we're doing in the downtown. He's a resident, but he may be interested in volunteering and helping in the effort as well. So we're putting together, I know Debbie's going to be reaching out to the team, a meeting for us to have our sort of kickoff introductory planning meeting, where we can get a little bit more in the weeds of what the core objectives are and the path we'll take and the schedule associated with the plan to do the business showcase. But it's really exciting. I know Lynn, I'd shared with her what we did when I was in Beverly from a video standpoint, as well as some of the presentation components. And, we'll do it differently. We'll do it for Topsfield, but there's some good sort of lessons learned and some examples of what works that we hope to maybe incorporate in what we try to do here in Topsfield. So that's exciting. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's volunteered to help on that. It's we're starting to actually take all the planning and start implementing, which is exciting. So all good.
Great. Kevin, if I could just jump in for a second. I had mentioned at the last meeting that I was going to follow up with Rosalie's daughter, Zoe, to see if she could potentially do the video or work with us for the video, because she had put together the Holiday on the Green videos and did such an amazing job. But her schedule is very busy, and she is not located in Massachusetts any longer. And so it was just too difficult. So I mentioned that to Kevin. So he's going to pursue other avenues.
Yeah, she was pretty sad about not being able to do it, but senior year.
Too hard.
It's too hard for her to do it in the timeline we're looking for.
So I appreciate her taking the time to talk with me. We had a good discussion, and we just couldn't figure out a way to make it work. It was just too hard, as you said, Rosalie, with the time frames.
Yeah.
So the next one, and we talked a little about master plans. We've talked about the last year or so since we established the ECDC efforts we were making to try to find funding. We have applied, and we feel good about an application that we have out there, that we might be fortunate to receive monies associated with that. And so just by way of update, if we're successful in getting that grant, there'll probably be an upcoming planning board meeting, a discussion on the master plan and details around what we're planning to do associated with it. But it's if we're fortunate enough to have the funds, it will be very transformative and a great public process to talk about all the great things that we've been doing and the great things that we'll have opportunities to do in the future. And again, if we're able to, I hate saying that because we feel very good about this grant that we put in, but I'll leave it at that. But I do look forward to working with Martha and her team if we're successful in receiving those funds. Hopefully I could share more information on that any day now on whether or not we were officially successful, but we're planning as if we were.
Kevin, if I could just jump in one more time. So if we hear, we'll send out an email to you to let you know the date of the planning board meeting so that you could actually hear the discussion and what is actually going to be undertaken. So.
If I could jump in here, there's a process. Kevin and I met today and talked about the process. By statute, of course, the planning board is responsible for master planning, but we've done this before and more recently than what people think, because all of that information disappeared from the website, but whatever. We've done this before, and the first among the steps that are involved at the beginning is that we form a master planning committee, and that committee is not just the planning board, but it involves the selectman, the town administrator, and then individuals within the community who have particular expertise in the 9 elements of a master plan. I would ask the ECDC. I gave Kevin a list, of what we would need to do to set up this committee. And Sarah, you should know as well that we would want a representative from the ECDC and a representative from the Topsfield Community Partnership to be on the formal committee, the master planning committee. So you all might want to think about that, who would be a good rep, from the ECDC. And Sarah, you might want to think about it as to who would be a good rep from the TCP. We do want to have wide participation from the various sort of movers and shakers, so to speak, in town. And we'll be collecting people who have, and I think Janet was involved in this previously, Janet, I think you were, as I say, we have done this before. So you need to think about who you would want to send from the ECDC. And then, of course, everyone else is welcome to sit in on the meetings and to participate in the process. But we need a formal committee that will be working with a consultant, to actually come up with a master plan. So does anyone have any questions?
I have a question, Martha. Is there a limit as to how many members can be on the committee?
No, the planning board can appoint as many people as we want.
Oh, really? Okay.
And that there are, depending on what the scope of all of this ends up being, there are 9 elements of a formal master plan. And so what we try to do is to find people with expertise in the various elements, who are familiar with, where we are and what our issues are,
Right.
relative to those 9 elements.
So a minimum of 9, probably.
Oh, yes, but it's always, at least what we did previously was that it was the entire planning board and the entire board of selectmen. And now we have a town administrator who would be part of this. We didn't have one the last time we did this. And then people who are knowledgeable about historic and natural resources, people who are experienced or knowledgeable about economic development, and the 9 elements, of a master plan. And so you can imagine, we have citizens who have been involved in the past who would be really valuable on the committee, but we want to be very open to engage the wider population of Topsfield, in the planning process. We're in pretty good shape in terms of what we have, in terms of where we were before. We have a vision statement that will have to be updated. We have analysis of housing and economic development that will have to be updated. But we're in pretty good shape in terms of what we have. I mean, we have an open space plan, for instance. The library has a plan. Highway department has a plan. So it's a matter of putting all of this stuff in one place.
Martha, question for you. I know that it's 12 to 18 months to put a plan together. If someone participates on the committee, do they stay on for the entire time?
If they want to.
The time commitment. But I mean, they could come in for something shorter than that for their expertise.
Oh, sure. We don't Shanghai people.
That's good to hear.
That, people can participate as they wish. And that's how it worked the last time. That, for instance, the Board of Selectmen, some people were there for the entire process, but some people kind of lost interest or just didn't feel that they had anything to contribute and left. So it is somewhat fluid as to participation. But I think that where we are right now, I mean, I'm already imagining where this is going. ECDC would be very important, be a very important piece of the economic development part of a master plan. So you guys need to figure out who you want to represent you. And of course, everyone can be there and talk about it and, participate. But, we need a voting member, of a committee.
Okay, thank you, Martha. So something to think about.
Yeah, Kevin, you wanted to say something?
Madam Chair, if I could just very last point, if I could.
Sure.
Just the most important part of this, there's two critical bottom line. It's what the results come out of that from a zoning perspective or recommendations, et cetera. But just as important is the public contribution and the involvement from the community. This is going to be the Topsfield community's master plan at the end of the day. It's approved by the planning board, but we'll have a number of opportunities throughout the process where there'll be opportunities for people to participate. Whether you have experience in planning, you own a business, you're a resident who's never been to a public meeting before in your life, we want everybody to who's interested to join us throughout the process if we're successful with the grant.
Right. And I just do want to point out that it's not just a zoning issue. That last time around, we did have zoning recommendations that we followed. And that's why we have the zoning that we have right now for commercial development along Route 1 and in the business village. Previously, things were very different. But it's not just zoning. It also has to do with things like public services. It has to do that would incorporate things like communication, social media, all of that kind of stuff, facilities, master planning is a long, it's a very complicated process and it involves a lot of different areas of the government. So it's not just zoning. I mean, there may be zoning recommendations that come out of this, and that's great. But there may be a lot of other recommendations that come out about policies, about, as I say, communication, about public involvement, that kind of thing. So I'm not making guesses as to what the recommendations would be, at this point. Because a process will lead to those. Zoning may be one part of it, but there's a ton of other stuff involved with master planning that has nothing to do with zoning. It has to do with where the community wants to go and what it wants to be in the future.
Right. Thank you, Martha. I appreciate your input on that, and we'll keep the group updated as we hear from the state and as we move forward. Kevin, wayfinding?
Wayfinding, yes. So as we all talked about before, Brian Pierce from OmLoop and our own Tom and others have helped us with Janet and a lot of others have helped us with, in essence, what turned into initially being just a wayfinding project to, in essence, a branding exercise for the town. How do we want to sort of be identified now and in the future? And I think Brian has done some really great work. I'll share with you now sort of what the final renditions looked like, assuming I can share screen. All right, so this is the final plan. The locations can everyone see it? Sorry, I just want to make sure everyone can see it. So the locations are generally what we're looking at. We'll fine tune that. There's about 3 locations on there that I already know are probably not realistic or appropriate, but this gives you an idea that there's been a survey. We've talked about that before. We've got sort of some of the typeface as well as the image of the rooster. We've got the colors there, which is cranberry, black, and cream. And then we have what's ultimately the final product of our wayfinding signage. And
They look great, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you. And that gives you a sense for what it might look like. That pole would probably be flipped the other way, but gives you a sense of what it might look like as you approach the downtown in different areas. We actually moved during our conversation. This was located closer to the intersection of Washington at Main. We moved it down closer onto Proctor after conversations on site with members of the ECDC, select board, and the working group that we had, in the historic commission, I should say as well. That
looks beautiful. That looked beautiful.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, we're very fortunate.
Can you go back to the, I'm sorry, Kevin, can you go back to the one with all the signs?
Of course.
Yeah, this one. Okay. So we did zero in. So that's our final with the, that looks great. The Topsfield Town Center. That's a font we talked about.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one that we kind of went back and forth with.
Yes.
Kind of like the more, I would call it this like bold, but the less serif looking, a little bit more straight. From image perspective. This though, after being on site, it was determined that the group really thought this one felt more appropriate. The good news is we're very much in the weeds, which is good because we got to get it right. And I appreciate everyone's time. It's been multiple months to get there. So, as they say, the devil's in the detail. And we certainly, I think, paid really close attention to the details. What I like here, you can see this. This is we've talked about this, but it wasn't in the last draft. But the panel will lay on top of the back panel, which has the rooster on the backside. And they'll be cut out for where the arrow is. So the arrow will the sign will have a lot of dimension to it. It'll be dynamic. It won't just be a flat sign that you would see in maybe other communities or other types of signs in other places. This is more of a sign you would find in maybe on a retail establishment to potentially where there's a little bit more thought to some of the design on it. So again, great work by everyone. Janet, it all started with you by finding Brian. So thank you. It really did make a big difference in what we were trying to do.
Hey, Kevin, can I just say, what I think what's really nice about it is that these signs, they look historic, but they look fresh also, as if it's kind of a new logo, but they really aren't like so contemporary and out there. It's very fitting, I think.
It's a fresh design, Tom, I think.
Well, I mean, I only did 10% of it, but I think the idea is that they're historic, but they have a fresh look to them. So it makes you feel good when you look at them, but yet feels like there's heritage and there's historic values here too.
There's real pieces, I think, from everybody. Like the rooster was something that Martha brought to the table about the history of that in town. That was it captures our agriculture.
Beautiful.
Topsfield's known for, right? But in a subtle way. It's not in your face. It's kind of just a silhouette. You've got the typeface, which I know, Janet, you were a big fan of that. And we really get there with that. Tom put in the shopping and dining. That was an idea Tom had along the way. Why don't we just say shopping and dining? And it's simple, but it's actually exactly what we wanted and what we needed to get to the end result of what the signs are supposed to do. It's not just to be a sign. It's a sign to direct people to a certain place. So, we're super excited. We on the back it says incorporated 1650. So we got the history in there as well in a really subtle way, which I know Kendra and others were very passionate about. So I'm going to look at these signs forever. Remember multiple faces and your parts of the process as parts of these. So like 20 years when I'm driving down, looking at, think of all of you.
Florida, we live in Florida. Florida retired. Forget it.
It was really great, Kevin, your idea of doing the mock-ups, the life size, and going out there, because there was that question about whether we needed the cleaner lines, whether it would be easier to see on Route 1, and it really made no difference as far as the ability to see the sign, so that was helpful. And moving the large sign downtown. It looks really nice where it is. So that was a great idea to have everybody out. And it looks like the Historic Society or the Historic Commission has approved the designs.
So Tuesday we brought it to the Historic Commission, and Historic Commission approved the design. We're going to go back to it once we have final locations. But for right now, the designs have been approved. So we've checked that box. And I also have some incredible news. There's ARPA money that the state has. We've all maybe heard of the ARPA money. It's the federal government's infusion of funds through the state and through the local governments to help with different types of COVID-related and sometimes more infrastructure-based projects. The state has received money. We received money locally, two separate pockets of money. I was talking with our state senator and advocating that we should have a seat at the table when it comes to funding in Topsfield. And Senator Joan Lovely has put in for us, it hasn't technically been approved, I don't believe, but put in for us an earmark for $100,000 for wayfinding signage in Topsfield.
Whoa.
Wow, perfect.
That's
So-
great.
Right. If I could only add, Kevin, we need to get the cranberry color, tacked down, which means finding the color of Town Hall, the cranberry, color that's used there, because cranberry is kind of a vague thing. So we need the actual paint number. I think maybe Donna can get that. Yes.
So we actually,
Martha, honestly, the color of the town hall is a different color than what these signs he's showing us. It's more orange. I don't know if that would really look well. Have you looked at
Well,
that?
we need to, the whole cranberry thing started years and years ago. And so we have street signs and we have crosswalks and we've had numerous.
No, I know you
different
mentioned it
things.
before, but it's a totally different color than what these prototypes are. And honestly, I'm not against it, but it's going to give a different look to those signs if you use that color that's on the town hall.
Well, that's why we need to get that
And I
color
think
to
the look is-
compare it to, say,
All
the
right.
historic district signs, which are sort of cranberry, and to other things in town. So we just want to be sure that we don't end up with something that's more maroon that doesn't work at all. So there is that. So if we can possibly follow up on the paint color, I think that's an important thing.
And
so that
Kevin,
is,
go ahead.
it's already been sent to Brian to ask for the, is it a PMA, whatever the paint number code is.
Right, the paint number.
Basically has every vendor has a different number associated with it. So we'll basically be, looking at whatever the vendor of choice that we go with, what their color looks like comparatively. So we don't know who that vendor is quite yet, but we're looking at we understand that that's part of the process. And we're obviously going to get what the color looks like before we produce, very $100,000 worth of signs. And then all of a sudden they're not the correct color that we thought.
That's right. That's important. The other thing is that the Agricultural Commission has been working, just in case you're still concerned about the rooster. We've determined that at least 9% of Topsfield's land area is committed to commercial agriculture, which is really quite extraordinary. That does not include what we call hobby farms, which are all of there's a lot of acreage that's devoted to hobby farming. That is people who actually are engaged in some kind of agriculture. So happily, the rooster represents, our agricultural heritage, as well as some of the historical issues in Topsfield.
Kevin, this might be a good segue over to the website, continuing with the branding.
Absolutely. So, we were going through the website design before we even started to tackle the wayfinding signage. And we have Civic Plus, which is sort of the 800-pound gorilla in the municipal website space, is our current provider. And they, nominal cost through a grant we received, was willing to update, give us a facelift in essence on our website, to modernize it and make it a little bit more user-friendly. We went through a process of creating a working group. We came to basically a pretty close to the finish of what we wanted. And then we paused because before we got to the finish line, we started the process with Brian and the signs. And we were really creating more than just signs, but a brand for Topsfield. It was much more thoughtful than what Civic Plus showed us, which was basically, here's a shelf of designs. What font do you want? What color scheme do you want? There wasn't really much thought to it. It was very much off the shelf, where what we were doing for our signs was much more custom and for Topsfield. So Civic Plus wasn't happy with us, and a couple times because they were waiting so long, somebody over there hit the go button early, and then we had to, over the weekends, and we had to go back on Monday and say, get that off, go back to the old one. It was very frustrating, but they've been better about it since I kind of read them the riot act the second time. But nonetheless, one of the things I asked Brian when we wrapped on this and we got everybody to be in a good place with the design of the signs, the signs over there in my office, that's why I'm pointing over there.
That you're putting it silly.
Yeah, it was like once we got to we had such great input and universal support for this sign, or signs, that he said, well, this has got to be incorporated into our website design if we can. And so I asked Brian Pierce to take a shot at mocking up something that we might be able to incorporate. So bear with me, I'm sharing my screen again. And he came up with sorry guys, you can all see that? So this is an idea of what we might be able to do on our website. This is another picture to use. So Brian's inspiration, which I thought was really just on this, just focus on the sort of the elements of it, not necessarily the detail, because that's going to change.
Beautiful. That bridge is beautiful.
Yeah, it's a nice image. Then, and those aren't, we'll play with the images, but it gives you a sense. You can see the rooster there, the typeface, etc. The color schemes, cream, black, and cranberry, staying with the sign, staying with the building, just overall consistency in what we're trying to do.
Beautiful.
So basically that I shared with Miriam from Civic Plus, who was actually surprisingly acceptable of the idea that we weren't going to do what they had already built for us. And I said, basically, what's it going to take? And she said, well, if some of the design that he's created, needs to be modified and put in different places, but the elements they can incorporate into the website. And because there's a template that they basically work off Civic Plus. And so you got to incorporate different imagery. But now that we have a brand, we can take our imagery and put it in there, which is really special. And so Brian's working on some modifications to that, but with the general feel of what you just saw. That will go over to Miriam at Civic Plus, and then they'll basically go forward with designing the website, updating the website again to sort of the brand that we've created. The inspiration on the website, I asked Brian, what was your inspiration? What did you come up with? I thought this was the best. There's two websites he found. One was a gin company, and it has this videos and imagery, big imagery on it. It's got that stamped white. Do you remember seeing the white stamp on the Topsfield, welcome to Topsfield on the right-hand side? That's kind of on those images that they show on that website. And then a second one was a resort in Vermont. And the same thing, big imagery, simple website. And the thing I loved about it is that if you go on most municipal websites, it's kind of a bulletin board. It doesn't really have that aesthetics, doesn't really invite you to come necessarily. This is going to be designed with some of the basics that the website requires, just public information, accessible information so people can find what they want. But it's going to be more than that. It's hopefully going to excite people and get them interested and really show that we're paying attention. Because the two websites, a retail gin that's high-end gin, and another one's a a destination in Vermont. We want to be a destination in Topsfield. We want people to see us in that image of sort of that. So most, in the same way our wayfinding signs are just very thoughtful comparatively to a lot of other communities, I think if our website can do what we hope it can do with this design, we can be sort of the retail version of websites, if that makes any sense. Something that's not just out of the box, something that sort of sparks more imagination and shows a lot of the things through imagery of what we're all about. So it's really exciting. And I'd love any feedback if anybody has anything on that. I can bring it back up too if you'd like.
I think it's beautiful, Kevin. I was very excited when you showed me, because for the people who haven't seen Topsfield yet, if they're doing searches and they're trying to find something to do for the day with their family, or a place to go, or a place to shop, that's what they're going to see before they get here. So that's going to reach so many people. And it really does convey such a warm village, enticing, come on into the town feel. And it's consistent, which we said we had to be consistent in our branding. So I love it.
I agree. So especially if it's a couple that wants to move to Topsfield, they may want to go on our website to see what the feel is like of the town. Or if you're a business owner, you want to open another location, you may want to check out the website to see what it's like. So I think for both of those things, it's good for the future of the town. Plus, again, it looks very historic at the same time. And I think that's an element that we need to incorporate as we move along.
Yeah, it's both clean and historic. I love those two together.
Kevin, this is Sarah. I just think that this just totally nails our identity. And, when I first got into the downtown revitalization stuff and with the ECDC or with the MAPC, and you weren't even on board at that point, but, we talked about how important, establishing a brand for Topsfield was. And like, I just feel like this really nails it, all the elements. So great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to comment, Kevin. Kevin and I have talked about this endlessly. I do think that this is such an enormous improvement, over what the Civic Plus was doing. It really is fine. The next step is navigation. That needs to be worked on, and I know Kevin knows that, as does the committee. I'd suggest that if anyone wants to take a look, go to Ipswich. If you want to see a website that includes the sites that you can see if you go to Ipswich, there are all of these places to visit, and it's a very, I think, effective website from a neighboring community. And so if we're trying to attract visitors, we need to have a section that shows what does Topsfield offer to visitors. And we need a section for business where there can be information about what businesses exist, as well as how to start a business in Topsfield. And that's something that many websites do include. So it's a work in progress. It's going to take some time to get all of this stuff in place. But you might want to check out the Ipswich website to see how they present the community from the point of view of attracting visitors and also attracting businesses. It's a good model, to take.
Martha, Kevin and I had talked about, and you and I have talked about it, and Sarah, being able to link into the TCP website.
Absolutely.
Because there's so much information there. Instead of recreating the wheel, it can link because it has all those things, what to do, and it's got beautiful pictures, etc. So as Kevin had said, it's kind of a phased approach. The first is to make sure that whatever gets up there initially is the brand that we want, and then we can add on and do the linkages, etc.
Right. Well, we created the TCP website with a mind to linking.
To doing just
so
that.
People would be able to see it. And I'll just put in a little plug for the Topsfield Garden Club site that also includes a huge amount of information that goes beyond anything else about, whether farms and gardens and, places to visit and things to see. So there's plenty of opportunity for linking.
There is.
Once we get a navigational system in place that allows that.
Kevin, time frame for this new version coming up?
So my goal is after the new year to launch not only the website, but also a social media platform, which will also incorporate our brand that we're creating. And so as a comprehensive rollout from a communication standpoint and upgrades, we're looking mid-January as a target right now. It's aggressive. They still got to build the website out. We've got to get all the bugs out of it. We've got to build the social media platform. But our goal is right now targeting mid-January. Honestly, to do it right, it might be a little bit after that, but it'll certainly be after the new year, after the holidays anyways, a good time. It's a quiet time where we can really kind of pump people up and say, hey, look what we're doing. Shine a bright light in the middle of February if we have to.
Yeah. Do you want to speak a little bit just about the social media plan that the board was talking about?
So one of the goals for the town that was created by the select board was a communication platform that's more comprehensive, specifically into the social media platforms, Facebook, possibly some LinkedIn, Twitter potentially, and really using it as a vehicle to push information out to the community right from us, directly from us, celebrating the wins, whether it's a master plan grant or a sign earmark, or if it's doing something that a weekly throwback Thursday where we get an image from the Historic Society of a place in town from the 1800s that we could say, hey, do you know where this is? And then we tell everybody later on. Maybe a quiz. Maybe we're going to do some videos potentially of staff at town hall. Meet your town assessor. Meet your town clerk. Just an opportunity to really engage the community on the social media platform as best we possibly can. And to do that and do it right, we've looked at a number of different models. And what we realize is that if we do anything, just like the signs, just like the website, just like everything we've done, we want to do it the best and we want to make sure it's done well. So we're going to be looking to hopefully get some outside support in coordinating that effort when it comes to the social media component. So it's exciting. It's another vehicle, another opportunity for us to share the wins, let people know what's going on in town.
I think that one of the points you mentioned, Kevin, is really important, that it's going to be a push out. This is not going to be a dialogue like some of the Facebook pages. This is just communication flowing out. One of the things that we see on Facebook a lot is misinformation. And yet we don't want to individually jump on and engage in a dialogue saying, well, that's not actually correct, or that's not what's going on. So we thought if we proactively get out in front of it and put the information out there, it would be a trusted source and it would be updated frequently enough that people will tune in to see what's going on. It's not once every 2 weeks. So Kevin's got a whole plan to approach that and to get talent that will be able to lay out a plan of what kind of information will go out on what date and stay right on top of it. So it's very engaging and up to date.
Yeah, we're excited. It's certainly a lot of work, but an awesome opportunity. We're ready to tackle it.
I have one question, Kevin and Lynn, I guess. The TCP and Sarah, the website and the town website, are they going to overlap with the same information, or is there going to be redundancies on them? I don't understand if one's going to have like the local events going on in town. I would think would be the town website, but is the TCP going to have the same events on their website?
So Janet, what we've done is one of the things is we're waiting from the last design to the new design that we're going to go forward is I did a pretty deep audit of how the website currently flows, information, where it's located. Our top bar currently, I think it's government, community, school. I think there's one other one on there, or contact us. Contact us should be at the bottom. I don't see any websites contact us at the top. That's prime real estate. So we've audibled and we've gone with government, community, doing business, visitors. Visitors will be then linked, for example, to the recreation page, which we'll now have because we have a rec director. We'll also link to the Topsfield Community Partnership. We'll also go to the Garden Club. I hope that's okay, Sarah. We hadn't talked about that, but
of course, we've talked about it before, so that's fine with us.
Yeah, it generally, but yeah, that would be the hope, is to incorporate in those locations. And then doing business. There's a document Martha passed along to me about doing business in Topsfield. We linked to the planning board, zoning board of appeals, alcohol advisory committee, Economic and Community Development Committee, downtown revitalization, parking study, sign bylaw. So people can go in there, want to do business, and find the things that they're going to be most interested in. And then schools is on the list too, if we can fit it on there. But schools is also under community and also under department. So it's kind of what do we want to put up there as the prime location. A lot of people, I feel like if you're looking for school information, you don't necessarily see it on municipal websites as a top header. It's usually the second tier down. I know if I'm looking at schools, I just Google Cove Elementary School in Beverly and I look up my daughter's information there and I go right to the source. But we'll have at least some information on the schools. And then, one of the things I think it needs to be intuitive is on the drop down on the government. It needs to layer in two categories: government in the essence of town departments, and then second, boards and commissions. Right now, it's kind of a lot. If you go on there right now, in our existing, there's a lot of kind of a bulletin board approach again. We want to make it clear, concise, so boom, town departments. I'm looking for the town administrator. There he is alphabetically. We can do better. We will do better, and that information is all we pass along. So I gave you more than you were asking for right there in answering your question.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure. I was going to mention that earlier. That's navigation has been thought of, and it's very. We go very deep into how we want things to move and where people to go, and we do incorporate outside websites that are going to support all the things we're doing.
Okay.
Right. If I could just comment that both the TCP website and the Topsfield Garden Club websites that are relatively new, that Kendra and who has just joined us and I put together, over the winter, were designed with an eye to being resources for the town website. That is that, we had in mind from the beginning that these would be useful, links that would go beyond what might be on the town website. So I don't know. Kendra's here. She might want to say something. But that was really part of what we were doing to try and showcase Topsfield as a community, and then all of the resources that we draw on, through the Garden Club.
So very exciting. This is going to be great information, so much more coming out and consolidated, as we were saying, with the links. So you're not duplicating information, you're just accessing them.
I would add that the document that I sent to Kevin, and I think I sent it to you, Lynn, too, Doing Business in Topsfield, is modeled on other communities' documents of that type. And that these are, this goes through everything from getting a business certificate through all of the different resources that people might need if they wanted to start a business. I think that needed updating. I mean, I created that. I started years ago and then updated it recently for this purpose, but it needs to be edited. There's a lot of stuff that is not on the website that should be on the website that, could be linked, from that document. And that's also something that might be a little pamphlet that someone wanders into town hall saying, I'm interested in starting a business, and right. So here's a piece of paper that tells you how to do it.
Lots of piece parts moving forward. So I know that Kevin's working to pull all those together. So we'll look forward to getting an update on that. Just because we're coming up on the hour, Kevin, I know you've got two more updates, one on the plants that are up on the lights, and then the other big addition to the common. So if you want to share those.
So and I have one last one too, just to give everybody a heads up on one other thing. But these are all the fun things, the things that people are going to get to see. The plants we'll lead off with that for the downtown. We talked about holiday greens and getting those up on the lights. So that's a great next step in our process with beautifying the downtown and keeping that going. And then,
if I could just on that, a thank you again to TCP for funding those, and Martha for your help in getting the design and the colors, et cetera. We really appreciate it. They look great.
Great.
Huge thank yous. Yeah. Couldn't do it without everybody. It's everything from the planners we put out there to the design of the planters on the light poles. It's been a great team effort, and from Sarah and Martha and others. So thank you guys tremendously. Two other things you'll see some change on the common. Tuesday, the library went in front of the Historic Commission regarding incorporating three-dimensional temporary art in front of the building. Sculptures, in essence. I talked 2 years ago when I started with Laura over at the library, who's the director, about the concept and using possibly Gould funds to support the effort in bringing art outdoors into the public eye. They've got great art that they bring inside, but it would be really striking to possibly do something on the outside. And so they've been working with Pingree School, who has a lot of artwork there, statues and such. And 3 of the pieces are being retired out of Pingree, and the Pingree got the library in touch with the artists. And there's an opportunity now for 3 pieces of art to go in front of the library, which is such an important piece of our downtown. It's sort of an entrance, and it's an opportunity to really grab people's attention. And hopefully maybe art can be it can really transform what we're doing and really touch people in a lot of different ways and excite people. So we're going to be trying it for a year, potentially with the blessing of the select board. And if it works, we'll look to do it again. If it doesn't work and the community doesn't like it, we don't have to do it again. But it's something that'll be interesting to try, and it's another thing for people to talk about. And it's not too intrusive. It's 3 pieces, not taller than me. And hopefully it's seen as a success. But that's something that's coming up. And then the last thing, which I'll mention, is for the last couple of years, since I started, I mentioned to a couple of people about the idea of putting an ice rink out on the common. And until we got a rec director, it wasn't really something we were going to, tackle. Until we got a feel for the community, it wasn't something we were going to tackle. But more recently, now that Stephanie's here and the team's been able to kind of put some thought behind it, we're very close to purchasing an ice rink for the downtown to put in the common during the winter months.
Awesome.
I love this.
That's over huge.
The town I grew up in did it, and it was such a hit. I love this idea.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Playground committee, we had talked about this years ago, and we just felt like it was too hard for us to do. So, I mean, there's just going to be so many excited people. That's awesome.
Yep.
And Kevin talked about lights and music. We can have
awesome
hot chocolate trucks come by. It can just be kind of a very old-fashioned,
wonderful,
winter scene in our downtown.
And it's the perfect place for it also.
So I was driving home last night from my brother's in Andover, and I was going by Linfield. So I stopped at the marketplace, and I went to their ice rink and could see kind of what they did there. We won't have boards on it like that. It's going to be flat surface, but it'll be 85 by 45. And the hope is we'll be able to put some lights around the perimeter, some holiday lights, some white lights to complement it. There might be opportunities to put some music out there, as Lynn had said, to sort of give you that festive feel, whether it's the holidays or if it's afterwards. Maybe put some jazz, I don't know, put something on there, but maybe bring the bench down, even put the solar bench down there, maybe that has music. So we're really excited. It's and it's such a prominent location, but a subtle addition that I think people coming home from work, especially when it gets dark so quickly, they'll be driving through, they'll see the lights, hopefully they'll see the people on there. It'll be really special. The biggest things that we had to worry about was ensuring that we had a flat enough common. There's really just one area next to the poles, the flagpole and 97, but inside the trees. And we just updated all the electricity on the common to code with conduit, so we'll be able to plug those in there, the lights. Hopefully we get the right weather for a couple of months so we can actually so we have to hope for that. But the biggest thing was funding it, and then secondly was to find maintenance for it. And personally, for me, I think it has to come from the community when it comes from a maintenance standpoint. If people own it, in a sense, it's something they're responsible for, they'll use it. And then we know we have people that'll come downtown and people see people there, and then other people will come down there. And it can be a really, really interesting dynamic. And I'm working on some ways on the funding side of it, so that we can cover the cost of it, either outside the operating budget or inside if need be. There's not really a great place to park it within our budget. Our budget's very thin and very lean, but we'll make it work. It's too good of an opportunity to not do it. We'll put it somewhere and then we'll do an STM transfer if we have to later on. But it's a big win for the community if we're able to do it. So the hope is we're going to bring it to the select board work session on Wednesday, and then hopefully that night we'll send we'll be able to process the check Thursday, send it to the vendor in Vermont who's making it. He'll drive it down if possible before the holiday in the green, but at this point it might be too tight to get it down in time. But we'll put some signage up there saying, coming soon or something like that if it's not up. And then hopefully in January, February, we get some nice weather and cold weather, maybe not nice weather. And we can use it and bring people at night and during the day to the downtown, which will be really exciting. So thank you for your support, everyone who jumped in. That was really helpful. It's good to feel the validation that we're heading in the right direction on these types of things, especially when you put yourself out there a little bit on something so different.
I just have one question, Kevin.
Yeah.
Have you talked about this with the owners of the Topsfield Commons?
I haven't yet. No, I haven't had a chance.
Okay.
Talk to those guys, but I definitely am going to talk to the neighbors and let them know that this is happening. There's the new neighbor who just bought the house next to the common, the resident there. So I want them to be aware that this is going to happen. I mean, for all they know, likely they probably have no idea this is the first time this is happening because they're new to town. But we'll set heads up that we're doing some things.
Hey,
Very exciting.
interrupt here, but you need a special permit from the ZBA for loudspeakers in the downtown. If you're planning on music.
Well, it would be a temporary music, Martha, kind of like a concert or, imagine like a concert, less the people with playing the music. It wouldn't be
just so you know, because if neighbors complain about music or something, it's just worth knowing that there is that provision in the bylaws.
Great. Anything else, Kevin?
I am good for now. There's always things, but I'll leave it at that. That's a good one then done.
Okay, terrific. Anything that anyone would like to raise or update us on? No? Okay. Then we will move to adjourn. Do I have a motion? Janet? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Okay. Was that Sarah? A second? Or Rosie?
With me.
Rosalie? Okay. Okay. Move to roll call. Tom?
Aye. Is that what I said? I'll never get
3
this
times
right.
the
I'll
charm.
never get this right.
You got it.
Oh my gosh.
I won't start with you next time. Alex?
Yeah, no, don't.
Aye.
Janet?
Oh boy.
Aye.
Zilly?
Aye.
Rosalie?
And I'm
Aye.
so sorry.
Kevin?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And Lynn is an aye, so that is unanimous. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night.
Okay.